Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're doing something, well, a little different. We are setting aside our usual stack of research and articles because our source material, our entire deep dive, it originates from a single, and I mean singular, perspective.
Yeah, that's right. The perspective of the late lamented Molly Marx.
Exactly. A Manhattan wife, a mother, a decorating editor who died very suddenly during a bike ride.
And our entire analysis is constructed from her unfiltered posthumous vantage point. She has this ability, you see, in an afterlife state she calls the duration.
So we're essentially reading her mind.
We are. And
Yeah.
through her mind, we're reading the minds of everyone she left behind.
Okay, let's just jump right into that because it's an immediate contradiction. Molly's first act of observation is peering down at her own funeral. And the very first details she gives us, they just set the stage for this entire, tragic-comic drama that was her life. She's being buried in what she calls a closure-optional casket. Not great, but the one thing putting this metaphorical, eternal smile on her face is what she's wearing.
And that attire is really the opening salvo in this posthumous war for Molly's identity.
A war, yeah.
She's wearing this burgundy dress she scored for 40% off at Barney's. It was a dress she'd wanted to wear to a Valentine's party years ago. And choosing it, or rather having it chosen for her, was a definitive, well, a middle finger to the matriarch of the Marx family.
Her formidable mother-in-law, Kitty Cats.
The one and only. Kitty, as Molly tells us, would have much preferred to stuff her into a button-down shirt and, get this, a pair of sensible pleated pants.
A look that Molly privately thought would make her look like a well-dressed sumo wrestler.
Right, so it's not just a fashion choice, it's a huge cultural statement. The burgundy dress, which her twin sister Lucy hunted down, is a statement of authenticity. It's a refusal to conform, even in death, to the sort of imposed waspy standards of the Katz and Marx family.
And her very last thought on her own image is that she got the dress for a bargain.
Yeah. It reminds you that even in this world of insane Manhattan status, she still valued a good deal.
And meanwhile, the whole performance of grief is just in full swing. We see the husband, Barry Marx, wiping his nose, playing the heart-sick husband trope to perfection. Everyone is eyeing his worsted black suit, immediately thinking, oh, that's Armani.
Right, positioning him as this successful, sophisticated, grieving man. But Molly's new perspective, it just cuts right through that pretense instantly.
And this is such a vital little nugget of knowledge right at the start.
It is. Molly confirms it's an Armani facsimile.
The fake.
A very good one. Purchased at an outlet center near Milan. But this single detail, it tells you everything you need to know about Barry Marx.
He's a man who maintains his social status through performance.
Exactly. Not necessarily through authenticity. He wants people to think it's the real deal. He
Right.
thrives on that pretense. So, his grief might be genuine on some level, but his presentation, it's pure marketing.
And then, of course, there's the heartbreaking core of the scene, their daughter, Annabelle Devine Marx,
Barely 4 years old.
in a little black velvet dress clutching her treasured bunny, Alfred. And Molly describes the look of just pure confusion and pain on her daughter's face as enough to make even Hitler weep.
And that image immediately establishes Molly's entire narrative structure. Even though she's dead, her overriding purpose is crystal clear. I will always be Annabelle's mother. Everything that follows is filtered through that need to protect and observe her daughter.
But the second that profound sadness sets in, the judgmental murmurs begin, which, of course, Molly can now hear telepathically.
Yeah, the public is already trying her case.
Right.
The speculation is it's all over the place, and it's malicious. She hears foul play, killed herself, and the ever-dramatic, jealous boyfriend.
But here's the critical sociological detail. The smug tone of one mourner pointing out that if it was suicide, it would question the Jewish burial place, not the funeral itself.
Which tells you this isn't about spirituality for them. It's about adherence to social and religious rules in this highly, highly scrutinized community.
It's not about the tragedy of a life lost. It's about the social implication of how she died. It just reinforces that Molly's entire life was judged by these invisible, rigid rules.
Precisely. And that's our jumping off point. So our mission for you, the listener, is to use Molly's unique, activated, and often brutally honest insight, her bullshit detector, to meticulously reconstruct the volatile relationships that defined her life, to scrutinize the suspects, and ultimately to understand not just how she died, but why the specific drama she left behind was so explosive.
Okay, let's start with the ultimate meta context. her new reality. She didn't just die, she crossed over into the duration.
Right.
And the setting and the guide she gets, they tell us everything about the kind of afterlife a performance-driven New Yorker gets.
Well, her first question to her guide, Bob, says it all. She's been reading the Guidepost magazine her nanny left behind, so she asks him, "Are you an angel?"
And he just shuts that down immediately.
Immediately. He rejects the label angel as too woo-woo. He prefers these, like, pragmatic, modern, self-help titles. Personal trainer, seeing eye dog, or big brother.
That is such a fascinating choice of a guide. The afterlife, it seems, isn't about spiritual growth. It's about self-improvement and accountability. And Bob is the perfect embodiment of this new reality.
He's the complete opposite of a mystical figure. He's described as incredibly well-pressed, dark-haired, square-jawed. He looks as snappy as the young priest the Vatican puts on television.
And Molly figures him out pretty quick.
Oh yeah, she pegs him as a flawless Eagle Scout from Northern California, which turns out to be 100% accurate. He even has this tragic backstory to match his good looks. A pediatric resident, engaged to be married, killed in a hit-and-run by a drunk driver.
So he's a tragic figure whose life was cut short by the exact kind of messy human failure he's now supposed to help clean up.
You got it. And the setting he's in is just as antithetical to the grand vision Molly once had for the afterlife.
What was she expecting?
Well, as a non-observant Jew with high artistic tastes, she had imagined the afterlife would be like an enormous Guggenheim museum, with those spiraling ramps leading up into some sublime blue yonder.
And the reality?
The reality is far more mundane and, crucially, consumer-driven. It's an upscale fitness resort in a sunny solarium that perpetually enjoys San Diego weather.
That detail is the real nugget of knowledge there. The afterlife, for Molly, is just as status-obsessed as her life was in Manhattan.
Exactly.
It's not the spiritual sublime. It's a high-end purgatory overlooking a lush, green park where people are power walking, as if they still have to meet their step count.
It really speaks to the idea that you can't escape your own personal conception of paradise or purgatory. Molly's life was defined by this relentless pursuit of perfection, status, and health, and death hasn't offered an escape. Just a very expensive, well-appointed observation deck.
And it is in this setting that she discovers the ultimate tool of her duration, her bullshit detector.
This is the core engine of our whole deep dive, this new critical power that allows her to hear the private thoughts and inner narratives of the living.
And Bob's revelation about this power is a huge psychological insight.
It's massive. He reveals that Molly always had that ability, but, and this is the key part, she never bothered to activate it.
Wow, that's profoundly sad. It suggests that all the conflict, the infidelity, the competition, all the misery of her marriage might have been avoidable if she had only chosen to listen to her own critical, intuitive voice when she was alive.
Absolutely. The bullshit detector is this powerful metaphor for unactivated female intuition, which so often gets silenced by the intense demands of societal performance. The need to be the perfect wife, the perfect mother, the perfect decorating editor with the perfect Central Park West apartment.
She chose to silence that critical voice to maintain the illusion of control and happiness.
Right, but this power is not without its risks, which gives Molly her own internal mission clock.
What's the risk?
Bob delivers this grave warning. The sheer volume of simultaneous thoughts, Molly hearing everyone's inner turmoil at once, is completely overwhelming. He compares it to living through a Stones concert in the Times Square subway station during rush hour.
That sounds like hell.
Right. And he warns her, if she doesn't learn to focus, to filter, to listen to just one voice at a time, she risks becoming stone deaf, losing her ability to observe entirely.
And this power is temporary.
Bob speculates it will last only as long as they need to last. So it's this urgent timeline for her to find some kind of resolution.
Before we move into the actual mystery, let's connect this back to the source itself. We have some unique insight into the author's intentions here.
We do. The author, Sally Koslow, shared the genesis of this concept. It came from her attending a neighbor's funeral and just wondering, quite simply, what the person in the coffin would think about all the eulogies.
Would they be happy, cynical, indifferent?
Yeah. She realized that this deep curiosity about our own funeral, how we'll be remembered, who will be there, what they'll say, is a fundamental human fantasy.
And what's so interesting is that the author didn't start with the solution to the mystery.
No, she admitted the book had to be a mystery because she genuinely didn't know how Molly died when she began writing. The character and her investigation literally revealed the truth together.
And that uncertainty, it seems, informed the complexity of the characters.
It did. Koslow noted that Molly Marx Despite his obvious flaws, I mean, the narcissism, the philandering, he was the hardest character for her to write. She felt compelled to redeem him slightly, or at least show his depth, because he was also described as a devoted son and a good, if imperfect, father who genuinely tried to atone for his sins.
He's not a simple villain.
Not at all. And that duality is what complicates the entire question of his involvement.
That duality leads us directly into the heart of Molly's life, her marriage to Barry. And the sources reveal this wasn't some great love story, but a relationship rooted in impulse and really a desire to achieve status quickly.
The foundation was incredibly shaky. Molly was only a sophomore when she married Barry, who was a pre-med senior. It was an impulse move, happening just 9 months after she finally broke up with a Christian named Christopher, which frankly was a huge relief to her mother.
And the family dynamic, right from the start, was one of skepticism.
Total skepticism. Her family, the Devines, her dad, and her twin sister Lucy, they were the sensible ones, while Molly was seen as the dizzy blonde. The moment Barry, who proudly identified as a cosmetic surgeon, not a plastic surgeon.
A key distinction for him.
Oh, a huge one. The moment he was introduced, the geographical distance between their New York and Chicago families could be measured in miles of just palpable silence. They sensed his pretension from day one.
And Molly herself found his early ambition to be an art collector pretentious.
She did. Yet he fulfilled his destiny, right? Became a resident at Mount Sinai, where he was remarkably skilled at wooing women into rhinoplasty.
And that wooing translated directly into the funeral headcount.
Absolutely. Molly observes that at least 40 of the attendees were Barry's patients. Weepers with the delicate, symmetrical noses. This detail isn't just color, it's a critique of Barry's constant need for female admiration, which just fed his narcissism.
And Molly's internal commentary on this is so darkly humorous. She speculates that these women must have had a phone tree starting at 5:30 in the morning to announce that Dr. Barry Marx was newly single.
He clearly valued her adoration more than he valued his wife's respect. And this leads us to the physical manifestation of their broken marriage, the decorating war.
Over their Central Park West Classic 6 apartment.
Yes, this conflict over their shared space is the perfect metaphor for their conflicting values. The apartment had 2 large bedrooms, plus a Lilliputian room for the nanny. It's the quintessential New York setup, built on status and managed domesticity.
And Molly wanted history, romance, a sense of escape.
She longed for a neo-Victorian fantasy. Grey thistle paint, damask wallpaper, worn Turkish rugs, a stuffed peacock.
A stuffed peacock.
A stuffed peacock. And leather-bound Jane Austens. She wanted to walk in the door and just shake off the demands of the 21st century.
But Barry demanded modern status symbols and practicality.
His first, most aggressive question was, where will I put a plasma TV?
Yeah.
He just dismissed her entire vision, worrying about dust triggering asthma, and he treated her like a closely related lunatic suffering from pregnancy hormones.
And he won.
He successfully vetoed her desires. And the result of this compromise wasn't a harmonious home, it was a soulless apartment. The creamy marble counters were stained with red wine. Molly managed to win the battle for her shiny cobalt floor, to Kitty's horror. But the centerpiece was a monster television ruling the living room, surrounded by butch leather couches.
So neither of them ever truly felt at home there.
Not at all. They just inhabited a space designed for public perception, not for private comfort.
The decorating war is a critical nugget for you, the listener. It shows that their marriage wasn't destroyed by some external event.
No, it was a fundamental, irreconcilable cultural clash. Molly craving authenticity and history, Barry demanding sterile, recognizable, modern New York wealth status.
And the irreconcilability of that clash drove Molly directly into the arms of her emotional escape hatch, Luke Delaney.
Luke, a photographer Molly met on a shoot in London. Their working relationship immediately became electric.
How does she describe him?
With stunning clarity. He was hot fudge to my vanilla ice cream, and she had this feeling that together they were better than each of us alone.
The affair itself, though, it was highly contained, literally isolated from reality.
It happened on a remote island, a place Molly sarcastically calls Margaritaville, 1,500 miles from home, common sense and sobriety.
And once she was home?
She successfully rationalized it, convinced herself it was meaningless and over, and she followed the entire memory away in the contemporary women's fiction aisle of her brain. A very tidy way to deal with a massive transgression.
Yet her feelings for him were profound and instantaneous, and she couldn't really explain them logically.
No, she likened it to an inexplicable artistic preference. Why does someone love the color orange or a Mozart sonata? I just was. Luke himself embodied a certain artistic sensitivity. He wore a V-neck sweater that deepened his blue eyes. But he was also vulnerable. When Detective Hicks questions him later, Luke confesses that he spends every minute running away from my regrets.
Which just underscores the deep, unresolved guilt that binds him.
Absolutely.
Finally, we turn to the most complicated high-stakes relationship in Molly's life. Her bond with her fraternal twin, Lucy Devine.
This bond was, as Molly puts it, spiced by red-hot chili pepper envy, which overwhelmingly came from Lucy.
Right, Lucy was taller, heavier, maybe academically superior, she went to Brown, but she suffered these perpetual relationship failures.
Often ending with a guy moving to another continent. And most painfully, Lucy desperately wanted a child, while Molly effortlessly had Annabelle.
So it's classic twin rivalry, just amplified by genuine life disappointments. Yet Lucy was fiercely dedicated to Molly.
She was. She chose the burgundy dress. She was so competitive that Barry, in turn, felt compelled to take up running marathons just to keep from being outdone by her.
It was a strange, toxic feedback loop that energized them both.
It was. But Lucy's deeper, darker thoughts, which are revealed through Molly's internal lie detector after she dies, they show the dangerous edge of that competition.
Molly hears Lucy's inner monologue during one of her running sessions, where her rage is synchronized with her footfalls. What does that reveal about Lucy's immediate suspicion about the death?
Well, Lucy initially dismisses suicide because Molly loved Annabelle too much. But then her rage focuses squarely on Barry. She thinks Barry could have driven her to it.
Wow.
And the anger intensifies with the rhythm of her feet. He'd drive me nuts. He could make any woman ride her bike into the water or off a cliff.
So this reveals that Lucy's belief in Barry's manipulative cruelty is so absolute that she immediately frames him as the psychological architect of Molly's demise, if not the physical one.
Exactly. She is expressing a desire for him to be guilty. Not necessarily that she is the killer. She just views him as fundamentally corrosive.
Right. And her rage is a projection of her own inability to control her life or her sister's fate. It makes her a compelling psychological suspect, but her physical whereabouts are still unclear.
Precisely.
Let's transition now to the specific day Molly died. The source material gives us Molly's exact focused mindset leading up to the accident.
Molly chose a lonely, specific path along the Henry Hudson Parkway and Riverside Drive, an area that Barry himself had once dismissed as being too dangerous for cycling.
But her ride wasn't about exercise.
No, it was about spiritual cleansing. She was determined to break off the affair with Luke, gently but irrevocably.
She was literally trying to turn the page on her life.
Her internal mantra for the future was to be monogamy forever forward. The bike ride was meant to be a physical act of expiation, of washing away the old Molly, scrubbing off that first layer of guilt so she could face her husband clean.
And the profound irony is that she was killed just as she was determined to become resilient and honest.
And the attack itself was highly specific, not random. She described the perpetrator as wheeled deviant on another bike, way too fucking close.
And the attacker knew her name.
Knew her name. The voice was described as shrill, nasal, of a higher pitch, a detail that, crucially, rules out the deep voice Barry Marx. The attacker screamed, "Molly Marx, slow down!" And then the aggressive targeted command, "Pull the fuck over!"
This wasn't a mugging. This was someone seeking a confrontation with Molly Marx specifically. What happens in those final moments?
She panics. She swerves. Her wheels skid through runoff from a sudden squall, and she hits the sharp, serrated edge of a rock, gashing her forehead. Her bike, which she described as a yellow Hermes-worthy hybrid, lands right on top of her.
And it is here, in the slicing ache of her injury, that the single most vital piece of physical evidence surfaces.
And is then immediately calculatedly removed. Yes, this is the center of the mystery. In the chaos, Molly snared a glittering pink heart pendant encircled by plum-colored pave stones on the Velcro strap of her windbreaker.
And she recognized it instantly.
Instantly. It was the same necklace, that or its evil twin, that Barry was planning to give her for Valentine's Day.
Wait, so the attacker was wearing, or somehow had, a piece of jewelry that was intimately connected to Molly's marriage and Barry's attempt to reconcile or placate her?
Exactly. And the bike bitch, as Molly calls them, bends low, not to help, but to pry the heart pendant from Molly's hand.
And her last conscious realization
Was the sound of a small splash as the necklace was tossed into the Hudson River. This deliberate act proves the crime was personal, targeted, and motivated by jealousy or resentment tied directly to Barry and Molly's status symbols.
So now the investigation begins, led by Detective Hicks, a sharp man in his early 30s with the discreet gold stud earring, whom Molly immediately judges as far more handsome than he realizes. What are his early assessments?
Hicks is highly skeptical from the start. His first interaction with Barry is very telling. Barry immediately corrects him, saying, "It's doctor," before internally berating himself. Puts, "Why did I say that?"
Right.
Hicks registers Barry's instant defensiveness, and despite Barry's obvious charm, the detective suspects foul play.
And what does Hicks make of Barry's alibi?
Barry claims he was running in Central Park, training for the marathon, a story Hicks finds flimsy and predictable. Hicks thinks privately that Barry is getting way ahead of himself, maybe covering up a simple accident or suicide. But the detective's internal antenna is raised. He views this alibi as the kind of predictable lie a status-conscious man would tell.
Hicks also interviews Kitty Katz, Barry's formidable mother. She's described as looking like the Contessa of the Venice Lagoon, dripping Tiffany diamonds.
Fully embodying the generational wealth that Molly always felt so inferior to.
What does Kitty reveal?
Well, Kitty is exquisitely dressed and highly controlled. She testifies that Molly was envious of Barry's thriving practice, his success, and all the attention he received. She also dismisses Lucy as a maniac.
But the core moment is when Hicks asks her directly.
Yes, he asks her directly, could her son be the killer?
That's a direct shot. How does she react internally?
Her mind immediately starts racing. She doesn't offer an instant fierce denial, which Hicks registers as a potential fear or a lack of certainty. While she sincerely believes Molly may have been envious of Barry, a point Molly herself concedes might be partly true, the question of murder forces Kitty to confront the darker possibilities of her son's character.
And the seed of doubt is planted.
It is.
With Molly barely buried, Barry moves with stunning speed. Within weeks, he has already integrated Stephanie Joseph into his life, immediately raising suspicions of how long this relationship was truly going on.
The progression is breathtakingly fast, and it's characterized by a glaring lie. Barry introduces Stephanie to the world as his daughter's highly credentialed grief specialist.
And Molly's bullshit detector immediately exposes the truth.
Oh, yeah. Stephanie was a former social worker, a was therapist, whose previous job involved a geriatric center dealing with dentures. Depends.
That is the ultimate New York lie, repackaging a professional relationship to sound high status and emotionally necessary, all while covering up an affair.
It's exactly that. Stephanie privately admits that the relationship is strictly professional, but Molly's detector reveals Stephanie's true motivations regarding Barry. The equal appeal of his big dick and big bucks.
It's a cynical, transactional relationship, completely devoid of the romance Molly craved with Luke.
And the timeline confirms the deception, too. Hicks confirms that Barry saw Stephanie the night Molly died. They had dinner at Landmark, and Barry paid cash a move. Hicks identifies as a deliberate effort to avoid a paper trail,
Which directly refutes his running alibi.
and makes him an immediate prime suspect.
Then there's the confrontation in the elevator between Stephanie and Molly's best friend, Bree. This is pure New York social warfare. Bree is immaculate, sporting a flawless taupe manicure, and she asks the question everyone is whispering.
She does not mince words. She asks, "Tell me, was it before or after when you two hooked up?"
And Stephanie sticks to the strictly professional narrative.
She does. But when Bree tries to use status to dismiss her, claiming Stephanie would never pass his mother's sniff test, Stephanie just laughs and reveals the devastating truth.
Which is...
You are so wrong. It was Kitty who introduced us.
Wow.
This nugget is crucial. It confirms that the greatest betrayal came not just from Barry, but from Kitty, who was actively vetting and pushing her son toward a new partner almost immediately after Molly's death, ensuring the continuity of the Marx dynasty.
Kitty wasn't just skeptical of Molly, she was actively trying to replace her.
That's it. Meanwhile, as Barry is securing his new life, Molly's sister, Lucy, is descending into full-blown turmoil. She's driven by this belief that Barry is manipulating Annabelle and trying to erase Molly's memory.
And this all erupts during the notorious Passover incident.
It does. Lucy feels she has an ancestral right to the holiday, and is just enraged that Barry is hiding behind Kitty, claiming Annabelle is too upset to travel. Lucy sees Barry as a wuss, using his mother to manipulate her, and sees control of the holiday narrative.
Her rage leads to a truly unhinged display.
It's high New York drama mixed with tragedy. Driven by this anger, Lucy goes straight to Annabelle's school and attempts to snatch her, intending to take her to Chicago for Passover, believing she has a greater moral right to be Annabelle's custodian.
Who stops the chaos?
A combination of school security and Ella's formidable nanny, Narcissa, a tough Jamaican nanny who looks like a combination of a Supreme Court justice and a prison matron.
And Lucy just flees.
She flees the cab, calling herself a crackpot, realizing she always makes the wrong choice. And Molly, who's observing this whole incident, feels more useless, more frustrated, or more dead as she listens to Annabelle's sobs.
This intense instability further complicates Lucy's status as a suspect. She's driven by love and rage, but her methods are clearly self-destructive.
It shows that the true victim of the marriage wasn't just Molly, but also Lucy, whose life was so defined by the comparison and competition with her sister.
Let's turn now to Molly's most intimate legacy, the thematic core of the narrative. The hidden letter to Annabelle.
Molly's nanny, Delphina, discovers this pale lilac envelope written on paper Molly specifically bought called Cosmic Lavender, and it's sealed with wax, like a message from 19th century European aristocracy.
And she had written it when Annabelle was 3, intending to give it to her daughter on the threshold of adulthood, her bat mitzvah.
And this letter contains 50 rules, ranging from the absurdly mundane to the deeply philosophical.
What are some examples?
Well, the rules are Molly's guide to navigating the performative pressures of femininity. She addresses fashion, never wear ankle-strap shoes. She addresses health and societal expectations. Big Macs have 24 fat grams. She addresses practicality. Don't waste time balancing your checkbook.
And she also imparts these personal, cherished secrets.
She does, like her hope that Annabelle would have a brother, but then concluding she'd pray for a little girl again because there is nothing more wonderful in the whole wide world than having a sister.
But the philosophical core, Rule 50, is the lesson that Molly learned too late.
The ultimate rule is an urgent call for resilience. Toughen up. God gives everyone her own special bag of breaks, but what makes the difference between happy and sad is whether you waste time being jealous and small. Bounce back. Be resilient. Self-pity is a waste, and life is short enough without it.
And when Barry finds this letter, the interpretation is immediately seized upon and weaponized by Kitty.
Yeah, Barry reads the letter, sitting on Molly's side of the bed next to Stephanie. And he's initially confused by the strange mix of advice. But Kitty, who is informed immediately, she interprets the philosophical plea for resilience as proof of depression and intent.
She sells him on the idea that it's a suicide note.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which provides him with instant, convenient closure that removes suspicion from him.
And crucially, it protects the family from social judgment.
Absolutely. That status-conscious fear of the Jewish burial place being questioned is immediately resolved if Barry can produce a suicide note. Molly's parents vehemently reject this interpretation, of course. They see their daughter only as sunshine, pure gold, and refuse to accept this narrative of weakness.
So Molly's final, most authentic act was immediately misinterpreted to serve the convenience of the living.
That's the tragedy of it.
As time progresses in the duration, Molly is allowed to watch Annabelle grow up. And her deceased father, Dan, who recently joined her after choking on steak the day after running a marathon.
The Divine family seems to have a chaotic relationship with health and food.
It seems so. He provides an update on Annabelle's trajectory.
And Annabelle develops into this fascinating blend of the two warring families. She acquired Kitty's figure, her grandmother Claire Devine's face, Lucy's height, and Molly's smile and hair. She becomes the physical embodiment of all the people who shaped her.
But her biggest decision is geographical. She leaves New York entirely for college. In Scotland. Why?
Dan Devine explains that Annabelle went to get away. She needed distance from the constant squabbling, the finger-pointing, the general toxicity of Barry and Stephanie's relationship drama. She also took the death of Stephanie's son, Jordan, very hard. He died in a heliski accident, and they were close companions, standing together like ducks on their own private ice floe.
So Scotland isn't just a university choice. It's an act of necessary self-preservation.
Escaping the performative, status-obsessed life that killed her mother.
And this leads us to the final scene, years later. A christening in Scotland.
It's a reunion, and Molly is able to observe it with a new, quiet perspective. Barry attends, traveling without Stephanie, who by now is his partner. And Molly notes he walks a bit stiffly now. He had his knees replaced recently, the physical price for all that running. He started purely to compete with Lucy.
Wow. So that detail just highlights the ultimate cost of status competition. Barry's body literally broke from his need to maintain appearances and rival his sister-in-law.
And he performs the Hebrew prayer at the christening. raising his father's silver Kiddush cup, embossed with grapevines, chanting the prayer in a strong, sure voice. But the Molly observing this scene has fundamentally evolved. She finally achieves complete emotional detachment.
The ultimate liberation, the climax of her time in the duration.
She thinks, I realize I no longer care or need to know. He belongs to another woman now. This is Molly letting go of the envy, the competition, the need for validation, and the possessiveness that defined her marriage. She no longer needs her bullshit detector for Barry because she has internal clarity.
What about the rest of the surviving cast?
Lucy, now Aunt Moosey, arrives late. She's married to a sculptor. And she's described as this tall, well-upholstered woman who fiercely embraces Annabelle. Molly observes that Lucy has finally found acceptance for her intense nature. Her husband, though secretly jealous of the mystery she shares with Luke Delaney, uses Lucy's enduring strength and determination as a stunning subject for his art.
So Lucy has finally found a form of peace.
It seems so.
And Luke Delaney, the lover, is present as the godfather, the persistent wanderer.
He reads the annual poem that Annabelle now recites on the anniversary of Molly's death. He reads from memory a poem by a rabbi, "We are loved by an unending love," breathing the words in a half-whisper. He's aging, he has a soft-trimmed beard, settling into the softness of 60. But Molly's final judgment on his internal state is sad but clear. He is not yet happy.
His guilt, unlike Barry's convenient closure, persists.
It does.
So how does Molly achieve her ultimate peace and step away from the duration?
It occurs through Annabelle. As Annabelle stands with her new husband, Ewan, cradling their child, she struggles with this fleeting sadness, wishing her mother were present. And Molly, using her remaining essence, nestles within Annabelle.
And at that exact moment,
Annabelle turns toward the ancient oak where Molly's essence lingers. Molly opens her sleepy eyelids, delicate as butterflies. Their eyes meet, connecting them with a live current of pure love. Molly knows that Annabelle knows she is there. And this connection, this final authentic moment of recognition, it makes Molly complete. She is rested now and ready to return to the duration, her mission of observation fulfilled.
So Molly's entire journey through the duration is a profound reflection on the ultimate human goal of achieving perspective after loss.
Exactly. She moved from being consumed by the immediate petty judgments of her funeral, the fake Armani, the social implications of suicide, to realizing that the competition and external demands that dominated her life were, in the end, just meaningless noise.
And her bullshit detector served as the spiritual catalyst.
It forced her to confront the ugly truths about her life that she consciously chose to ignore in order to maintain the illusion of control.
It's a powerful lesson in resilience. Molly confessed to being flawed. She gossiped, she was impatient, she let the newspaper pile up. But she ultimately prioritized authenticity for her daughter. And the final insight she gained, that moment she let go of caring what Barry was thinking at the christening, was the ultimate achievement of the resilience she preached in her letter.
She stopped performing for the audience she was forced to leave behind. Her most hard-won realization was that the love in her life, however confused or conflicted, be it Barry's narcissistic devotion to Annabelle or Lucy's competitive affection, was complex and messy. Death stripped away the performance and revealed the flawed humanity underneath.
So we return to the central unsolved mystery and the final nugget of knowledge you should walk away with. We have identified almost everyone in her orbit as a psychological suspect. Barry with his lies and new girlfriend, Luke with his pervasive guilt, Lucy with her murderous fantasies of revenge.
Right.
Yet the physical evidence points to a stranger with an intimate, highly personalized motive.
Revisit the glittering pink heart pendant. The shrill-voiced attacker, who Molly confirms was not Barry, knew her by name and specifically sought to steal and discard that necklace, which was the evil twin of the one Barry planned to give her for Valentine's Day.
This is a crucial detail.
It's huge. This individual was intimately connected enough to Molly's marriage and the status symbols Barry used to manage it to understand the significance of that specific piece of jewelry, yet they were a physical stranger to Molly.
Which raises the final provocative question for you to mull over. If Molly's life was nearly destroyed by the internal toxicity of her immediate circle, Barry, Luke, and Lucy, who were all on her suspect list for causing her psychological ruin, what does it say about the true nature of the world that her life was ultimately cut short by an external force? Someone driven by external targeted rage, intervening precisely as Molly was finally determined to turn the page and achieve the resilience she wrote about.
Sometimes the greatest danger isn't the internal demons, but the completely unknown messenger lurking just outside the drama, who understands your life and motives better than you realize.